Hey everyone, how's it going? It's I, the real Randy Chavez, coming at you today with Dr. CoolMoe, who is sporting look like an FBI agent right now with your hat and your dark glasses on. Everyone say hello to Dashi. Hello, Dashi. So you have a before we get into what we'll get into, you have a specific reason for the incognito look
I
and
do.
the
I
yeah.
do.
Tell us a little about that before we get
As
going.
well, as a college professor, I'm just out of respect for the school and especially my students. If my students know I've got NFTs, they will drive me bonkers about it and ask me all day long. So I'm just trying to be a little bit respectful here and maybe just drop some knowledge without knowing everything. You know what I'm saying?
That's fair. And so before the life you had before you were a professor, for any type of college, for any type of attempt to get in the military, the background kind of reminds me of a story you told me about the 1982 World Series. That you were there as a young man at the very precipice of adulthood and manhood. Tell us about that. I'm a Cardinal fan. What that was like in 1982 at the World Series.
Yeah. See, I basically grew up in a very small town in Illinois. Um, I think the only time, my parents didn't have a lot of money. The only trip we ever took was to San Diego because my brother was in the Navy. And that was the only trip I took until I went until I seen the World Series in St. Louis. Now I'd been to Cardinals game before, but nothing like this. And here's how I knew that I was somewhere. And this is a 16-year-old kid talking. I looked up and I saw the Goodyear blimp, and I was like, I'm somewhere right now. So that's the type of thing that everybody has felt once in their life or so, and it's just a marvelous feeling, just being somewhere that all the eyes of some of the world was on. So
Yeah. So back in for those of you that don't know, back in the day, how you knew something was going down, where there's a lot of people gathering or there's a big event, there was that Goodyear blimp, kind of like the
yeah.
Watcher from Marvel, where they only show up in times of peril.
Yeah. Of course, there's
Yeah,
that rumor that Stan Lee was one of the Watchers, and at the end, they kind of on that
yeah,
rock that one scene. So
yeah. He was talking with all the Watchers. Which makes sense. Uh, when you were there, were you at the end when they won, or were you at just one of the random games?
no, I was at game one. I
Okay.
can that moment is so burned in my brain. Bob Forsch was pitching for the Cardinals, and they lost 10-0. They ended up winning the World Series, but it was something when you're 16 years old. That was everything to me. Everything.
Yeah, I could imagine. So you weren't in St. Louis for like the actual win. So there was
No,
no.
no, it's
Okay,
not.
I imagine that city must have gone insane that night on the.
Yeah, my brother went to the 2011 World Series, and they ran out of beer about 3 in the morning after the Cardinals won the World Series. And Randy, you know what I'm talking about with St. Louis and beer.
Yeah, that's amazing. So out of all the parks I've gone to, I feel like there's no other fans like St. Louis fans. They're very dedicated, they're loyal, always wearing that sea of red. I've been to a whole bunch of different baseball games, a whole bunch of different parks. I don't know, there it's just I don't want to say like a lifestyle, but it's very much part of their lifestyle, of their
It is.
overall
Well,
thing.
there's really nothing else in St. Louis but Cardinals and the Blues.
That's true.
Nothing much
It's a good
else.
point.
You got the Mississippi, and that's about it. So, but as far as Walt Disney history, I guess Disney was actually looking at St. Louis for a park at one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, somewhere along the line they were looking to say because it was the middle of the country.
Yeah.
Probably the weather is what did it. You can't control the weather. Although I live in Orlando right now, and during the summer it rains every day about 3 o'clock, and I'm talking downpour, and then about an hour later.
Sideways lightning. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
exactly,
seen it.
exactly.
I do love that. I like the can do that. I was a Cubs fan. Yeah, pick up
Oh,
from the chat.
well, we love to
The
hate them.
Yeah, we honestly though that was a 98 season where you didn't know who was going to break the record, Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa. That was a
Magic,
good that was a good
magic.
good year. That was fantastic. The I'm really curious on how much of the have you seen what happened to Sammy Sosa recently? Or I guess not recently, over like the last 5 years, where he's not black anymore. He's very the skin like he had like the Michael Jackson thing. The skin is very much lightened, does not look the same.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. But so you mentioned Orlando. I can't wait to go there and have the one of our parties. I'll pay for everyone's Omi tattoos. If you have a secret alligator Loki, we'll go pay for your ticket into either Harry Potter World or Disney. whatever that is. Speaking of Disney and other stuff, is that what attracted you to Veve at first? Is that
It
what attracted you?
absolutely, it absolutely was. I will tell you, probably March of that year, I happened to come across the image of Todd as an NFT. I can't remember, it was the Veve app was recommended to me on my phone or what it was. I kind of looked at it in passing. I probably 2 seconds maybe on it, and I just didn't. It just didn't click with me because right then I didn't know the power of NFTs and what they were going to become or anything else. So it was actually my daughter. Well, I tell you what, before that, what I ended up doing is I got into crypto and I did some deep dives. Obviously, started with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I kind of felt like I missed a boat on those. You know, I felt like they were starting to moon. And I actually looked at Bitcoin in 2013 and did a pass, but I came back to it because it was in the news. A lot of people were talking about it. And I came across OMI. And what really intrigued me about OMI was is deflationary. So, you know, the burning mechanism that we have for the collectibles and the accessories that are going to go in the new showrooms we're all going to get and so on that are going to burn OMI, you know, NFT for OMI is coming. All that type of stuff is what really brought me into it. So I probably bought 2 million OMI, I'm going to say October of
21.
2021. And so I was very happy with that. I was just going to let it go. You know, I just put a little bit of money into it, just kind of a diversify because I'm mostly into stocks. And then my daughter said, "Hey, you know, you were looking at that OMI stuff. You mentioned this company named Veve. Do you know Disney is dropping their NFTs on it?" I was like, "What? Oh my God." And I will tell you after that, I didn't get much sleep at all. um, I did. I thought now if Disney is going to get into this, there's something in it. You know, I can understand the comic books and all that type of stuff, but when Disney hit, that's when I knew that there was something to these NFTs. And that's when I started to look at, you know, started to take a look at it. I got a quick story for you. Walt was getting ready to drop, partner statue was getting ready to drop, and it was $333. And my daughter was like, should we go for this? And I was like, I don't know. That's, you know, that's a lot of money. I'm not sure about that. And then literally that night it went to 1,800 and I said, hey, I'm going to buy this. I said, I'm just going to go ahead and buy this. I just don't see how you can lose on this. And she actually talked me out of it. So she talked me out of it. She's kind of my business partner in some ways. She talked me out of it. And then like a few days later, it was at 5 and 6, and then it's out of reach.
Mm.
And so I went and bought Elsa, Iron Man, Homer, and Wally. So those were I bought those, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And I was looking at those to keep. I basically, from the very beginning, I went very quickly from an investor looking to flip to a collector. And the only thing I've ever collected in my life is, let's see here, Cardinals memorabilia. That's basically the only thing I've ever collected. And so I quickly got into it. Now, I really was not a comic book reader when I was a kid, but I did go see all the movies, you know, and I was in DC, solid DC. I never even looked at Marvel, never really kind of understood. And today it's completely flip-flopped. I'm a huge Marvel fan.
I see the Marvel shirt.
So what I really like about it is the stories, you know, that go along with it and how they've incorporated. I mean, Kevin Feige's done an outstanding job of just doing the MC, you know, the universe from Marvel, how they've incorporated everything and how they're going to continue to incorporate. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Jonathan Majors, though.
Yeah, I had that. Somebody asked me that the other night, and I took a look at it, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of evidence, or if any at all. The only thing, I think it was Variety, I forget who posted, saying like the woman in question did have minor scratches or minor whatever on like her neck and face. I don't know what that was from. I don't think it's going to be a huge thing. Like I don't. It's not like Peter within an inch of his life, within an inch of her life. But yeah, a lot of people had that knee jerk reaction, like, oh, he's getting canceled, he's getting whatever. It's like, okay, let's see what happens first.
Well, how many films is he supposed to come out with in the next few years?
Like 5. I mean, he already, I think, did a bunch of the Loki series. I think that's almost done. So hopefully that doesn't get delayed. So you have that. You have Kang Dynasty. You have
Secret Wars.
I'm not sure if he'll be in Secret Wars because that's supposed to be after Kang Dynasty.
Oh, yeah.
But I imagine, I mean, he's going to be in so much. His presence, his like this version's Thanos, his presence will be felt like everywhere. I think it'd be really great if they build him up as this big villain or whatever, and then like at the end of like Kang Dynasty or whatever, it's not like the good guys that take him out. It's like Doctor Doom that takes him out or something, and then suddenly, like that'd be dope.
Set up Doctor Doom for. Actually, I think it's Doctor Doom, the Secret Wars, isn't it?
Yeah, I cannot wait for that. I mean, there's so much stuff that they could do. Like, are they going to bring Thanos back for Secret? And do the old man Cap is actually, I forget how he gets it. He fights somebody that sucks the super soldier serum out of him, and he continues fighting as old man Captain America. So they do have the choice of doing that. They've set that up perfectly. And then you also have Iron Man, that's Tony Stark. He's actually supposed to come back as a different version. The one that we had the Fantastic Four in, we saw Reed Richards. He's supposed to be that universe's Iron Man, and he's supposed to come back and try to like get revenge for killing it, even though it was Scarlet Witch that killed everyone. Spoilers.
Yes.
Yeah, so that could be extraordinarily exciting, especially what that could mean for Veve as well. I forgot what we were talking about before the Jonathan Majors thing was brought up. This is a lot of good distractions. Yeah, so the marketing side. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that part of the the reason I really appreciate you bringing me on board is because I kind of look at myself as an average user that have actually taken a look at this and seen the long-term picture on this. I kind of look at things maybe a little bit differently because I'm looking at it long-term. I'm not a flipper unless I want something. And in the past, I flipped to get Todd, Walt, and now the Veve logo. And so, I've got a lot more than that, but I'm anytime I need to flip, and obviously I go for the drops and I go for sets and things like that, but I'm not looking at a short-term gain here. I'm looking at a 5-year at least, and might not even be that short. It could be a lot longer. I've got the entire Golden Moment set, and I can't see myself selling that for a very, very long time, if at all. And when David Yu came out, or it was Reese that said that we're going to be able to sell sets, I started buying sets before when MCP was just barely being talked about. So today it's about buying a bunch of cheap sets, the stamps and people, I know last night in your live stream, people talked about the Coca-Cola truck and a couple other things. Yeah, you can do that. But I'm looking at sets, like one of my best sets is the Disneyland Paris poster set. Those are all secret rares. They're very cool. I'm looking, and the reason why I've bought a few posters is I'm thinking ahead for the showroom. I'm thinking ahead for whenever we're doing this. I'm going to have a garage. I've got the secret rare, or not the $1 million Aston Martin, but I got the 500 edition Aston Martin. I've got
That's cool.
A couple of the Lamborghinis and so on and so on. So I want to have a garage. I want a poster set in there that deals with cars, probably from the movie Cars. I'm kind of looking at that one where it's on a dirt track to maybe go on the wall. So whenever I'm looking at collectibles or I'm looking at sets, I'm thinking about sets or posters that I can put around my showroom to show off. Because let's face it, what do people buy the things they buy sometimes? It's to show them off.
Yeah, of course.
We watch Sleeping Comics, and I'm always eyeballing that AF-15 that he's got in the background.
Yeah,
but if you really want to see that, you're going to have to go to Sleeping's house, go down in his basement. I think that's his basement, and look at it. And you can't open it up. You can't read it. And that was what's so appealing to me about this is I've got, thousands of dollars worth of NFTs, from Veve, collectibles from Veve. And, I don't have to worry about my house burning down and to lose them.
Yes.
I know that if I was, something happened, if I was sleeping and something, I would have that house so wired up for fire alarms, it would be nuts. You know what I mean?
I would have so many weapons. Like, God forbid you try to get robbed, like gun under the pillow, gun under the, like guns everywhere, pit bulls everywhere. Like nobody's robbing that house.
Yeah, you don't want to go in there and be searching for any HOR codes,
Yeah.
cards from him. So that's what I like about it. But I've kind of, I've taught marketing for a very long time, and I specialize in consumer behavior and in advertising, and so I kind of look at Veve as we have different types of users we're looking to come in, different types of markets. Let's put it that way. And so, we start off with the existing users. What are we looking forward to that's coming up shortly? Well, we've got MCP, we have OUP, we got the VVverse, we got new drops coming, and we also have FUD and excitement all day. I mean, look at what happened yesterday with this, with all these collectibles going out, people
Yeah,
doing the sweep on the
I definitely
blockchain.
wanted to address that because you have a bunch of you did have a bunch of collectibles go from VV to Danny Boy LIC, and then a bunch of collectibles going from Danny Boy LIC to VV as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't. I don't think it was just like whales want to buy stuff. I'm sure that's definitely part of what it was. And a lot of people were saying, "Oh, it's a bunch of low mints," but we had somebody take a look at the blockchain and all the transactions, and it was actually confirmed that after looking through it on a Mutascan, there are no sub 41s. There was one sub 100, and a lot of them are pretty random numbers here and there. Two are actually number 100s, and two I think were mint 250s, but there were nothing crazy, and a lot of it was super verified. So if they, based on that, VV had sold 0.0002% of their low and special mint numbers that they had held back. So I feel like people are trying to make mountains out of molehills.
They
Should we
are.
hold this first? Sure, absolutely. I don't know if they'll do this again. No.
I look at it making them out of a molehill. They're a private company. They can do whatever they want, and that's one thing about Veve, and that's the reason why I have all these collectibles, and I've got quite a bit in Veve's because I've watched the team. I've listened to how people have talked about the team. I've not met Dan. I've not met Reese. I've not met Alex. I've not met any of those people, but I see these YouTube influencers and I see the way they talk, and I look for that. I look for this nonverbal communication. And I got to tell you, I was working with another token that everybody in this stream would know. If I mention the name, I'm not going to. But we were looking at the university doing something with them. And I still don't know what the guy's name is. The one that's over the entire token that minted the token.
Yeah.
It's like I'm using CoolMoe, not using my real name. I never knew what this guy's name was, and that bothered me. Now I may be a little bit old school on that, but if I'm doing business with you, I want, I want, what's your name at least, where are you at, and things like that. But it was never any of that. But here we have David Yu that comes to all these, all these conferences. They have events on their own. They meet with people. He's on Twitter. Because I got the logo, I'm now on the gold and silver, Telegram, and, he's in there, but, I'm not going to bother him. I've got, he's a busy man. I want him to be busy.
Yeah.
I don't want to bother him. I mean, can you imagine trying to go through Asia and never be, and doing everything that you do and all that? I don't want to bother him. I don't want anybody to bother him. I want him to keep doing what he's doing. Dan, keep doing. Alex, the whole team. Mitch, when Mitch got announced in December, it seems like everything kind of started to come together a little bit organizational wise.
Yeah, the updates are great.
And the beta program and how he's explained it and so on. I mean, talk about being upfront and showing everything. That's how I see the Veve team. And that's the reason why I made that decision to get that logo, because I believe in this team. I believe in Veve the way that I do. And if you don't believe in the leadership, I don't know what to tell you. But, that thing that happened last night, it's one thing I say in class all the time. And I've ran campuses. I've had a lot of people underneath me. And, you need to be as transparent as you can. You can't give everything away. But when you make a decision, and I'll say this in class, if you got 8 reasons to make a decision, you might not only be able to tell people about 2 of them. Yeah. And the rest of them, maybe because of competition, Homeland Security could be this. Any company is doing this. They're a private company. They, in a way, we kind of got stock with them, probably is how you could look at that. But I'm waiting for the dividends, and the dividends is going to be OUP and MCP. That's how I'm looking at at the collectibles on this because I'm in for the long haul.
Yeah, that land. I mean, it's going to be a finite amount of land too, and if you're able to stake a certain amount of OMI, maybe you get first dibs on land. Maybe if you have a VV Golden logo, you get first dibs. That land is probably going to be, in my opinion, some of the that could possibly be a better ROI than OMI, depending
Yeah.
on what they sell it for and what type of land you get.
Well, I
Obviously,
mean,
the land in
you're going to use OMI to stake, and I'm definitely looking at that level, that tier 5 staking. You got to have $40,000 worth of OMI.
yeah,
I have 7.5 million. I just need that thing to just. It doesn't need to pump much for me to have the 40,000
yeah.
and 4,000 to fast track. I'm going to burn some collectibles to get to that. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to spend any money on that.
Yeah,
And
there's a couple people going to do that, which I I talked to my whales about it. I was like, listen, guys, you can if you want, but be advised it's going to cost a bit of over. They're like, I don't care, I'll do it. It's like, all right. So
yeah,
I mean, it's pretty wild. The amount of given the opportunity to light money on fire, and they'll do it just to get ahead. Like it's insane.
yeah.
And those are just like some of the whales, like not including the people that maybe wouldn't be considered a whale, but still have enough to do that type of thing. It's it's wild. Very bullish on that.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at that, if you take a look at the level 5, the tier 5, I mean, you get common, uncommon, rare, the ultra rare and the secret rare collectibles that come out every quarter. And
Yeah,
even if you're at level 1, you're going to get at least a common. I want all of them. I want all of them, and I want to be, I want to be able to. This is another thing I want to talk about is I own all the Mighty Marvel Mighties. I own every single one of them, and I'm hoping for gamification on those.
yeah. That's hard to do. Very few people can do that because you have the two that I feel are hard is the Spidey 2099 because
Yep,
that's like almost 300, and then
absolutely.
the Shuri Black Panther is not crazy expensive, like 150, but there's only I think 900 of them or 880 that were made. So it's you can't have 1,000 people have all of them. So that gets kind of hard. Right.
So yeah, I'm looking at that gamification along with land. There's my passive income because really my ultimate goal is passive income. I want to own land and be able to rent that land out. I mean, I want to be over in the beach, man, and getting that passive income while I'm sitting there at the waves. So
So speaking of that, the in your career, kind of before you got into this, but it definitely ties into it. PhD in marketing, and how did you get into that? I know you had a quick story about the potentially going into the military, but then they hecked you when they
yeah,
found out that you were colorblind, like they do a lot of people.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, how do you get into marketing, and how does your specialty
I
complement your purchases on BB?
I've always been interested in why do we buy what we buy? Why do we have what we have? What are the patterns there? That's how do you break down a market? How do you you can do it by demographics. You can take a look at age, income, location, but you can also take a look at what's called psychographics. Why people buy what they buy, and if you can find those little patterns right there, and that's what I see that Veve's trying to do with new users. And probably the best news that I heard come out of the team in the past couple of months is they're looking at, I don't know what you would call it, toning down KYC to where you can sign up, but until you actually sell, then you have to do KYC or buy, I think it is one, or maybe
Yeah,
put them together. And like when Quid came out a couple months ago, I was like, well, I'm just going to go take a look at Quid and just see what they got. Just, high tide rises all ships.
mhm,
And they wanted me to KYC, and I was like, you know what, I'm not that interested.
yeah,
But then I think how are people looking at Veve this way, and they're like, well, I'm not that interested. I don't want to go through all this to get there. So as far as onboarding and get people excited about it, if they can make that as easy as possible for at least people to get eyeballs on what we have as far as IP is concerned, that's where I see, and also how to find collectibles. And the last thing is for new users is really education. I started my doctorate in 2000, and within 1 year, I had a topic for my dissertation, and it was how do websites promote brand loyalty in products and services. I had to fight for that topic. And I mean, I had to have like a couple hour meetings with a couple of professors to explain to them why this was a valid topic. And so I got my, I did it, original research, got it all done and everything, got published and all that. And then in 2005, I've actually got a screenshot, not a screenshot, but I took a picture of a newspaper in 2005 that said the internet is a fad. Now that was 2005.
That's so strange that even in 2005, I could picture in the 90s when things are like dial up. Yeah, but
it's, if I could find this on my phone, just trust me on that. I don't want to spend time looking at my phone on that, but I believe we're right here right now with the metaverse. This feels, I thought I missed out because I was a poor college student in the 90s when the internet started to come out. And I thought this was the opportunity of a lifetime. I thought about it more and more all the way, throughout, up to 2020, 2021 until I saw Veve. And this feels eerily, and I mean that in a very, very good way, similar, because this metaverse is what's going to do it. As soon as people see, and also the blockchain, I think in the future, everything is going to be blockchain. You're going to buy houses on the blockchain. Microsoft partnered with Anchor, and I know you've been talking to Anchor a lot, and I've been thinking a lot about why they're going to be, partnering with Anchor. They want that blockchain technology, but think about it. Maybe they're going to replace OneDrive with the blockchain. So if I send you a document via blockchain, that's right on the ledger. That can be seen. That can be used in a court of law type of thing. So maybe, they're going to replace OneDrive with a blockchain or have the option for a blockchain.
They have Anchor. It's not just that's their biggest partnership. With Microsoft, they have 10-cent games, which helps make like 80% of video games. It's insane. They own like 5% of Tesla. They just partnered. Anchor just partnered with Polygon as well. Now make calls via their newest RPC API connection. So that's one I'm definitely bullish on. And I like those things like Crypto Rain had mentioned that maybe don't have the highest market caps. It's not even in the top 100. It's higher than a Comey. I think it's in like top 150 maybe, but it's still low enough where you'd probably see like a 10x return in the bull market. It's not one of those coins that can get 100x most likely. Probably not this bull market, but when you have,
I was just going to say, and there's a big reason why Microsoft's going to partner with them. There's something there. We just don't know what it is.
I mean, Microsoft also owns half of ChatGPT now, and God, if they're somehow partnered with them, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it is 100x that they could do.
Could be.
If they need all 10 million tokens. I mean, they'll have more stuff going on. There's just so much. I feel like now we're hopefully near bottom. And I know there's a bunch of people that are saying, well, Bitcoin still has to capitulate to like 12,500. It's like, I feel like y'all have been saying that for like a year. And if they, if that does, great. And then we'll see even lower prices. Like we had some, this guy named Blockchain Comics was just on here before saying the SEC just banned all ERC20 tokens, always at 0005. And of course, like obviously you have people lying all the time. So you really have to watch the misinformation. But this is, I mean, let's say if we don't capitulate down, and this is probably as close to bottom as we're going to get for that. So pretty much anything you have, as long as it's a good product, should do really well in 2 years.
Yeah, well, not financial advice, but MCP and OUP is coming out. That's the reason I bought the logo, is because I think we're at the bottom of the market or very close to there.
Well, you got it for the logo because it barely dipped below 4K now, but you got the last one under 3K that I think will ever be bought.
Yeah,
under 3K.
So, and there's been a few. I mean, I bought in at 1.7, sold at 3.5 to get Walt, and then this was the time for me to go back and get that logo. Yeah. And that's going to open up doors that no other NFTs are going to open. I mean, other NFTs are going to open up doors, but as far as Veve is concerned, it's going to open up so many doors. I just see David Yu is using the Veve logo as the way to show what you can do with utility.
Agreed. I mean, when a lot of these other companies don't necessarily like. Again, Disney had, I think, two things with utility. They had they had the Aladdin lamp where you get the Disney D, and then you have the potions that we're going to get this week in like 2 days. Which you could obviously burn and get a poster, but so they're dipping their toes in there. But David using the Veve logo as an example of what other companies could do for it, and they're the ones that are unfortunately, all these other companies that don't have experience in Web3 looking to David for guidance. This is why he's very busy. He probably has calls, I don't know, dozens of calls a day, talking to them about it. And yeah, this is going to be beautiful. This is why I have two, and why I wanted to get a third one, but the price went up a little too high for me to get that. So.
I see where, the reason the golden moments I think were such a successful drop is Disney tweeted out that they were coming out, and I don't know why. Like, I don't think they tweeted out about the platinum moments. I never saw it. There's got to be a reason why. Just don't know what it is. But Disney's Disney, and whoever's got Disney as that IP is going to do successful. You can almost, but this type of thing that comes out, we have more and more collectibles come out, and people are like, well, what about the golden moments now that the platinums are dropping? I'm like, they're FAs, they're not going to duplicate those, and they didn't. You still got Mickey and Minnie, but they weren't. Mickey was a gold moment with Walt, which is, in my opinion, a double FA, and and the biggest character for Disney. But if you take a look at those golden moment or those platinum moments, those 100 sets, there's no duplicates for the golden moments.
Yeah.
So
I even mentioned that they probably could do something like that, and it would still be okay because it's different. Like, also, I'll take Star Wars as an example. They sold a bunch, I don't know how many millions of Naboo cruisers, as toys, as action figures. And then in last season of Mandalorian, when he gets an old Naboo cruiser it's exactly the same Naboo cruiser, but the paint was chipped off and it's silver. So they can literally sell the same thing in a different color, and people love it.
Yeah.
Pokemon did that with Charizard for the 25th anniversary Charizard. That same exact artwork had been done, I think, 7 times before. Not just like 7 different Charizards in different poses, different artwork. That exact artwork. It just had a little Pikachu face in the corner with the numbers 2-5 as the cheeks, and it's still popular, still sells. So Veve probably could have done that, and it'd be fine. But it is in different poses. It is in a different color. It's a completely different set. So yeah, and they're also a lot scarcer. So I'm going to say these are. I'm a little more bullish on some of the platinum moments. I think the Mini and the Dumbo, and I think honestly everything probably except for maybe Donald is probably going to be my favorite. Is that a Star Wars beer?
I'm sorry.
Is that a Star Wars beer you were drinking?
No, it's just this at Disney 2019 is when I think that's when the Millennium Falcon came out. So
gotcha. I thought it was a beer can. I was like, no way, Star Wars makes a beer.
I'm not going to start drinking beer at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
I mean, you could. Oh, do you have class to teach tonight?
Not today. No, not today.
All right. So you have so that is your profession is in marketing, but you're teaching a class on leadership. Tell us about that.
I am. Yeah. So I've got a lot of experience. I've been over a lot of, I think the most people I've been over is probably 300. Okay. So you don't want somebody teaching leadership that's never been in that type of position. So since I've got experience, I'm not just taught, I've done a lot of other things. I've been in higher education pretty much my whole life, but I've been an administrator. I've also, to keep my marketing piece fresh, I also volunteered at another school, and at their small business development center, and I'm on a board there. Actually, I haven't been on a board since the pandemic, which is fine. But I would, with the small business development center, they take companies here, and then we work to get them up here. So we don't start them, we get them here, and we get them right here, and then we want to build them up. Yeah. And so I've always been the marketing piece. I've been on probably 8 boards of companies. Some are small, some are medium. Never had any large ones and stuff. But each person on the board brings a different piece to it. And so they put these boards together, and this is all funded by the federal government to try to help out small business and things like that. So I do that for the marketing piece. But I'm always been interested in marketing. This is all I think about when it comes to Veve is, how can we market this? How can, and like I mentioned before, I think the IPs marketing, and I did see where Ubisoft, shouted out about their collectibles that are coming out on Veve, which I was very happy to see, because that, I think we need more and more of that. And like I said, there's got to be a reason why Disney's not doing it. But on the other hand, this is what I keep thinking about. The house is not done. You know,
Yeah.
MCP is still being rolled out. OUP is still being rolled out. We don't have our new showrooms yet. The house is not done.
Yeah.
So you don't have you don't have a homewarming gift, a housewarming gift without the house being done. So once the house is done, market then. I mean, they're marketing now, but it's not, it's a little bit more than what we've seen in the past, but the house is not done. So
Yeah.
let's clear up all the furniture. Let's move into those showrooms, and then let's see that marketing happen. And then we're going to be good to go, I think.
Something interesting I've seen is that they're really just marketing towards Web 2 people that aren't necessarily in Web 3, which I find is I think going to be a bit harder to do, because you have to be like, okay, what's an NFT? I mean, and they don't have to know. They just need to know that these are cool statues you play with an AR. They don't really need to know how the blockchain works. But I feel like a lot of Web 3 that's already in this and can appreciate really what the value is, I feel like would be a much easier sell. But what's your take on that?
Yeah, I kind of look at the Web 2 versus Web 3 in a kind of a different way. I look at it this way. Right now, basically all of our collectibles are 2D. They're on the phone, and you've got that AR function, and I'm sure everybody in here is gonna say the same thing. If you show the VR to somebody, they're like, oh my God. Like I bought the T-Rex simply because of being able to show somebody that in the VR.
Yeah.
And how big I can make it or how small I can make it. So there's certain collectibles. The DeLorean's another one that I show off in VR. I want people to see something that's different instead of just a static. But once we go to showrooms, and from what I understand, you can send a link for your showrooms to other people. I think that being able to see them, especially if you get VR glasses, and being able to show them in 3D and being able to walk around them, that's where I think you're going to get a lot of the Web 2 coming over to Web 3 types of people. Because that, I think people are going to get the wow factor. I remember Veve Magic was in a stream a couple of weeks ago, and I thought this was a very interesting thing that she talked about with the VR. Well, she goes, I will go to these characters at Disney, and she used the example of Spider-Man. She goes, the person that's playing the character of Spider-Man, I said, okay, stand this way, do this. Okay, move to the left a little bit and just hold it right there. And the guy's like, what do you want? This is weird. She takes the picture and then she shows him, and the guy is shocked. But he's like, but what would you use that for? So until people figure out what we're going to be able to do with these, and I think the metaverse, the showrooms, the first example of what Veve is going to do, I think that's when people are going to start to be able to see it. And the doors that having certain collectibles are going to have to open up doors, because I'm sure that we're going to have multiple metaverses within the Veveverse, based upon IP. So that's where I see it going. And so once people see this world that's open up to them, I think that's when things are really going to start to happen.
Yeah, I think as far as the AR glasses that you're talking about, I think that might take a while, because Meta has their Meta Quest 2, and I think that's only a couple $100s. I don't think it's that bad. So that'd be cool to see on there. But I know Apple's new headset that it's rumored they were supposed to be like $3,000, and that's like, and granted, it's going to have to be infinitely better than Meta's Meta Quest 2 Pro if they're going to charge 10x that. But I don't know. I just feel like that's going to be extremely hard to get people to use, at least right away. I know you have that. They'll sell that, and the profits from that will go and fund the next generation, et cetera, et cetera. But that is still just the headsets. There are people that are worried about like Wi-Fi being around the headsets and it hurting the neck. So, do you think we'll have to wait for actual glasses in order for people to do that?
Well,
and I feel like that's also years away.
I'll take the iPhone as an example. When the iPhone came out, it was $599. And even Steve Ballmer, the CEO of Microsoft, made a YouTube video about it and said, nobody's going to buy a $500 phone. Famous last words. So, if Apple's going to release something, they better make it to where people see that if we're going to charge this amount, it's going to be worth this amount to them. And so that's where I kind of see the key to it is if people see utility in what they buy, and this is the age old thing. If I see value for me, I'm going to buy that thing if I can.
Yeah.
And there's obviously different levels of that. You know, you can get some cheap AR glasses, or you can spend $5,000 on a VR set. It's up to you. But if you see value to that, and so that's really what you're trying to do to find a market. Can you find enough people that see value in the price that you're offering and the features that you're offering? And if you can do that, if you build it, they will come.
And Apple people are pretty crazy. Whatever they come out with, they'll buy. So I feel, I feel like that's a good point. God, I can make so much money. Outside of that, I've seen for marketing, Veve they have ads on Instagram now. And I think they're using Red Skull as their ad. They're just saying like, hey, come purchase these. In that type of aspect, do you think marketing on like Google AdWords, Facebook Marketplace, what are the best ads to advertise on Web2? What platform?
Well, I would say that, you know, when you're talking about digital marketing, it's easy to, you know, do ads on Google and stuff like that. It's not going to be as inexpensive as doing some other types of marketing and stuff. I think the more eyeballs that see that logo and see the name, eventually it's going to click. You know, if you see it right off the bat, you may not pay any attention to it, but let's say you see another piece that's another different type of marketing piece that comes out from Veve, then they may remember, just like I did with going back to what I talked about earlier. I remember seeing Todd. I remember seeing that Todd Batman. And then when it clicked a few months later that Disney was coming out, I was like, there's that Todd. And I was like, I definitely want that Todd. And then I found out, you know, watching some YouTube influencers, the Todd was kind of and it's the number one of many, many, many different things. But that Todd, I remembered that from months ago because I was, you know, a Batman fan. So that's what I love about Veve. You got all these different types of IPs. Sometimes people will complain, well, why are we coming out with Tarzan comic books? Well, it kind of goes back, Randy, what you talked about when you were at San Diego Comic-Con, and David Yu said, we don't do anything without a reason.
Correct.
We've seen this. I mean, look at when Quantumania came out in February. Look at the build up to that. I mean, we got the Mighty Marvels. We've got some comics that came out and so on. Remember Black Panther? Yeah. We got Black Panther #1 that was after the movie. Things like that. So there's a method. Oh, there's a process here. There definitely is. It's just we're too close. You know, David Yu's got the team's got the ability to see out there how things are going to go, and eventually where we're going. We don't have that luxury. And so that's the reason why I trust the process. I trust what the team is doing. And until they give me a reason not to trust them, I'm not selling anything. I'm going to keep my collectibles. And I would be shocked if you know, anything else happened that, you know, we hear about some other projects. I would be absolutely shocked, because I think one thing about David Yu, one thing is when Alfred Kahn said that, I think it was David Yu got the business in New Zealand. How old was he? Do you remember that, Randy? Was he
17, actually?
17 years old. Listen, when a seasoned veteran of collectibles gives a license to somebody in New Zealand at 17 years old, that person knows some stuff. Yeah. 17 years old. You shouldn't have given me anything at 17 years old. You know what I mean? So those stories like that, and you know, other things that I hear and stories that people like you tell about meeting them and so on, these IPs, these different IPs that come in, there's a reason for it. You know, like the Rabbids, those were dropped on Roblox. They're characters. Doesn't take 2 and 2 to figure out maybe those things are going to be something. So I bought one of them. I bought the double one, you know, the laughing one.
Yeah, I tried on the drop and I couldn't, it just sold out really quickly, and which makes sense. I think it was only like $49,000 for everything. So that sold out in like a second. Yeah. They're all above retail though. I did not expect that. I expected a couple of them to be like $7. They're not. So that was very interesting.
That could have been Veve pulling some new users in, and those new users went after that. That could have been the very first ones that they bought. That's how I kind of look at this is, you know, we have a core group of users, and since really March, February of last year, you know, we've been in a bear market, and, you know, it's kind of been the same people over and over. And, we've lost some people, but we need to gain users. And I know the team knows that. I just think that they're just waiting for the house to be done before they do it. But all these different IPs, I'm sure, are in the big plan on how to bring in different types of users based upon age, income, where they're at. I mean, localization is kind of thing that's off there in the back a little bit, but I got that Peely set simply because of localization, because I'm waiting for Taiwan. From what I understand, that Peely, that fantasy,
Yeah, it's really big.
it's real. It's like a religion in Taiwan. So I bought that set. Still waiting for localization, but I'm patient.
We've been waiting for a while. We'll get it at some point. I don't know when. Hopefully later this year. If we can, that'd be great. Not, probably be reasons for it. But yeah, I would say later this year we should probably start to onboard Asia.
Yeah.
And then I remember when Peely Fantasy first came out, and I was doing a live stream for it, and everyone was commenting, "This is first appearance feet," because you see some of like their feet through like their sandals. Like, oh my god, people are so nuts. People get crazy. But yeah, all the marketing they could do, and they don't even need to do it. The companies could do it for them. So that's one of the brilliances of EVs.
Also, I've been giving some thought to the Marvel Unlimited. Where you can get the 30. Is it Marvel Unlimited?
It's I think 30,000 comics. I think you get to pay like $10 a month for.
Well, they recently came out with one. Was it X-Men 64? I believe it was.
Yeah, Uncanny X-Men 64.
And so, only people that had Marvel Unlimited was able to get that. And so a lot of people are like, well, why are they getting that? Well, listen, that's just Veve looking at that market and saying, hey, instead of being able to read these, maybe you can buy these and then you can have them as collectibles. And so your favorite ones are doing, it's just a matter of these different markets that Veve's trying to get in. And I look at that Uncanny X-Men 64 as a way of saying, hey, you guys read these comics, guys and gals, you're reading these comics. Here's one that official, you can download as a collectible, read anytime that you want. And in other words, it will enhance. It's kind of like going into a showroom and going, okay, I really don't know which car I want, but let's take a look at all these different types of cars. And then eventually figuring out, I want that one, but I want to own that. I don't want to lease that. I want to own that car right there. That's, trying to think outside the box, in my opinion, of Veve. And it's easy to do because it's Marvel. So Marvel obviously wants the comics to pump, even in the secondary market, because they're going to get those fees. So, I kind of call that a little bit of guerrilla marketing in a way. So these people are paying for comics to read any of them that they want, but you also get this as a bonus. I'm sure that made those people very happy that got those, but it also puts eyes on Veve and it gets the community talking. Because I remember when I went out and bought an actual physical Todd statue. And so I walked into a comic book store, and I couldn't even tell you the last time I walked into a comic book store. Probably never. Okay, I don't ever remember doing that. And I bought the Todd, and I asked him about Veve Comics, and this guy had no idea what I was talking about. And he was saying, I don't know why you'd want something that was digital, that's on your phone, that's flip instead of the physical. Well, now I want both, know. And, it's something that I just think that this is going to be the future based upon a lot of different reasons that you've talked about ad nauseum throughout and so on. And, I've got some thoughts on how the comic book store could kind of leverage that, because, if you came out with, if Marvel, like when they released the Black Panther, the first appearance of Black Panther, well, if I was a comic book owner, the store, I would feature that. I would have that on sale. I would do some stuff. I would market that. So, it's kind of levels of marketing that you go through here. And I think once these companies start to realize this, and Veve, is trying all these little different things. I mean, they said the big stuff is coming, and I think it is, but I think the house has got to be done before the big stuff really comes. And how they would do that, how they would market to the masses, I very much like to pick Alex's brain on that and find out, what thoughts are on that and so on. But, as of right now, I have no problem with what they're doing, because I'm a long-term investor. I'm not looking at this as a flip. I'm looking at this. So whatever they need to do, that's the reason I believe in the team. And if the team has got to wait, then they've just got to wait. Because it's kind of like when David, you said that they didn't put, they had a major contract, with an exchange, and I'm going to bet dollars to donuts that was FTX. Yeah. I think all these, all these OMI people went in and bought and kept those on FTX. Think of the uproar that would have caused, not only for FTX, but I know just from the sentiment that's on Twitter sometimes, they would have blamed David Yu and the rest of the team for picking FTX.
Like, why'd you pick them? It's like, there's number 2 exchange at the time. Like, it made sense to do that.
Yeah, I mean, he saved so many people by, he told the story, not signing that contract. He forgot to sign it. Thank God. Now, I buy all my stuff on Bet4X, but, FTX would have been definitely a different type of thing. So as far as exchanges are concerned, let's get them when the team feels like we need them. Yeah. That I have that much trust in the team that let's do what they feel is best. Because remember, we're in a brand new industry here. You can make one wrong step and destroy a lot of different things. So,
agreed. I would say when going to picking the brains of people and going to see what Marvel's doing. Marvel has a very interesting pattern of they mint a certain amount of collectibles, and then like half to maybe like 10% or even less go and actually redeem those codes that they give out.
Yeah.
The Thor poster, I think about half of them, I think 1,090 were minted or were printed, but then only 534 of them were redeemed. For the Wakanda Forever poster, it was 1,000 that were specifically minted, but only 101 of those were redeemed. And then most recently, Uncanny X-Men, 1850, I think, were minted, but I don't know how much it was. It was like 168 were redeemed, give or take. And I know a couple whales that have multiple of those Uncanny X-Men. I don't think they sold for under like 550. I think that's the minimum sale.
Well, as we know, scarcity rules.
Yeah, I feel like nobody really knows about that comic. I mean, it's not a popular comic. Sunfire, I think in a 9.6 goes for like $2,000. So it's not a crazy popular one, but again, super scarce. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. I don't know what does happen with some of those extra ones. Like, are they just going to burn them, or are they going to be used for more giveaways? They haven't necessarily been clear on that.
They burned other things, some of the comics and stuff, Daredevil and Elektra, things like that. I know that I got the Jurassic Park, the Dominion. I got that collectible. I ended up selling it, but I think there was a certain amount of time that you had to do that by. And I mean, I did it like 5 minutes after I got the email, but maybe that's what they're going to do is, going forward, or maybe this is already, put in stone that they have a certain amount and then they have to cut it off and then they burn the rest. It'd be interesting to see.
I'd be curious about that. So on you mentioned before when we first started that a couple of your students would get after you for having NFTs. How old are these students? Are they, I know it's a leadership class. Do they lean left? I know a lot of colleges do. Lean right? What's their take on NFTs?
They're very interested in it. I mean, it's the age bracket. And the reason I kind of want to be incognito on is because I've taught finance in the past. I've actually been a controller of a college, and so I've taught finance in the past. And at the beginning of the class, just for fun, just to kind of keep them interested, we've done, and a lot of finance classes do this. You do a stock game where you go out and you pick 5. I say, okay, you got 10 grand, you're going to pick 5 stocks. You need to do some research on it. And at the end, what I will do is if you get a better grade on this, like if you're the top earner, then I'll replace that grade with something else. In other words, I gave them an incentive. I utilitized it, I guess.
Yeah.
And so students would be like, so what are you getting? And so I would pick my stocks and I'd be like, listen, we are not going to talk about individual stocks here because I don't want you 5 years from now coming back and shooting me in the head because I said something to you or you read into me saying something about a certain stock and so on. I had to stop doing it because all the students were looking at the stocks that I bought. And of course, I've got to show them because I just can't go in and go, yeah, I beat y'all. I just can't do that. So I had to stop doing it because, I don't want anybody going out and buying something because of what I said
Yeah.
as a trusted educator. So I never had it happen. I've always been very aware of it. And I've had conversations about NFTs in class. I've dropped it every once in a while. And the rest of the class, I'm talking about NFTs, and I'm trying to bring it back to leadership, and they just ask them questions. Finally, I have to say, okay, we need to go to something else here. I mean, we got to go back to the topic, because I got a job and I got responsibilities. But I found myself just inundated. Inundated is a very strong word, but a lot of questions from students, about it, and so on. So that's the reason why I just want to kind of remain a little bit incognito, if you could say.
No, I feel you. All right, so we're talking about stocks. If this is not necessarily for the best ROI, for me, this is just, in my opinion, one of the safest things. I love Tesla. I have made predictions that I've gotten laughed at before, that I think they'll be a $6 trillion company by 2030.
I am right there with you, Randy.
Oh, wow. I was not expecting that response.
What I love about your channel is you use analogies. So here's an analogy for you. Okay, if you're going to start a football team, probably the number one thing that you need to start a great football team is a quarterback. Yeah. However, if you do not have an offensive line, the quarterback's going to be scrambling. I don't know if anybody remembers Fran Tarkenton, but my God. Okay, that man ran around probably 3 miles, every game because he had such a crappy offensive line. So if you take a look at Tesla has hired some of the best engineers. I look at Tesla's engineers as the offensive line for that company. Now, you got the big three, and you got other manufacturers. You got Ford, you got Chrysler, you got GM. They're transitioning from ICE, internal combustion engines, to electric engines. They don't have the engineers. As a matter of fact, they took apart the new Mustang Mach-E, and they found out they had an extra mile's worth of wires than what they actually needed. In other words, they engineer it very well. Now, listen, I've got a couple friends that got Mach-E's. Those are great cars. I'm not knocking them. It's just that Tesla, going forward, in my opinion, has got the best engineers, and I don't think these other companies can catch up with them. They just put a headquarters in Palo Alto specifically to hire engineers. Now, you tell me, there's your offensive line. And when they come out with this $25,000 rumored car that they're going to come out with full self-driving, that's game-changing. That's absolutely game-changing.
Well, also, I feel like that $25,000 car would be before the full self-driving is put in. And then I mean, you have a $25,000 car, but what is full self-driving now? I think it's like $15,000.
It is. It is.
So, and it's going to be $18,000 at some point, and then 20. Like, there's going to be that inflection point where the full self-driving is probably going to be worth more than the car. I mean, if you have something that doesn't need you, it can go out and Uber on its own on that ride sharing network that Tesla will create. That's and that's how I made a lot of my money in the pandemic. When everything went down, I was thinking about getting out of high risk lending, going into doing something else, and just threw everything in Tesla, and that helped my gains real quick.
I got Tesla stock. I bought it a couple months ago when it was down.
So, nice.
Yeah.
That doubled, right?
Close.
Or maybe like 80%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's doing pretty well. I didn't buy a bunch of it, but I do have some. I can, one idea that I got with this robo taxi fleet that they're coming out with, if you want to do this as simple as possible, you get a huge parking lot, say in downtown Orlando, huge parking lot. You put all those robo taxis in there, and as people need them, they just go out. They just go out, and then they go back, and somebody's got to be there to plug them in. Or maybe, just maybe, one day they have wireless charging. And this is what I seen somebody there's a company in Europe that's doing this. They got these city buses, and they built into the streets a wireless charger. So those buses don't need to be charged. They're constantly being charged because of the wireless charging that's in this concrete. And it's only certain roads that are doing, but that's the future. I mean, people are like, oh, I don't want to wait around for charging. Listen, I was at Wawa last night. You know, I plugged it in 15 minutes, went in, got me a couple of things, came out, watched the YouTube video, and then left. It's not a big deal to charge. People are saying,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's 4 hours. People are scared to
We,
death of Teslas. I don't know why. It's the most, it's like being on a Disney ride, that cruise, and it's
yeah.
so fast. So
I
fast.
got. So you said what model do you have now?
I got a Y.
I pre-ordered 2 Cybertrucks. Did you pre-order one of those?
I pre-ordered a Cybertruck. Yeah. I'm
Nice.
number 2.1 million on the list.
I don't know what I'm at. I should be one of the first. I ordered them both when full self-driving was $7,000. So I should be probably within the first million. I hope.
I've got a website I can send you.
Yeah, send me that. That'd be great. So I can find out. We've been, and this is why I'm so comfortable with delays, whether it's on Earth 2 or it's on Veve, because we've been told about the Cybertruck for years now. We've been told
Yeah.
about like Apple headset, Apple glasses for years now, and they keep delaying. And again, these are like trillion-dollar companies, so I'm 100% fine with Veve has to delay a couple quarters or a year on something.
So did you buy one did you collect them? So in other words, you're going to keep one and then sell one?
Well, originally when I bought them, I had 2 companies, which I technically still do. But when I was doing that, I thought I would have one for each company and I could I don't know, like use them both. But I think now I'll use one and then one will 100% of the time be used as like a ride sharing network, like a ride sharing thing. Unless if full self driving is, I don't know, like $30,000 at that point, and somebody wants to, and I just make $23,000 for nothing, maybe I could do that. But that doesn't really make sense, that short term 23K, because one, you have to pay taxes on it.
Yep.
And then two, you would make that, you'd probably make that in a year with full self driving, and then full self driving will continue to go up, the value of the car will continue to go up. I feel like Tesla's the only cars where not only the value of the car stays flat, but they often go up because of full self driving.
Yeah.
But,
although on resale values, full self driving only gets you a couple $1,000s on resale value.
oh, really? It's not the.
Yeah. Yeah. I looked at some used Teslas before I bought my Y, and I bought my Y because they dropped at 13,000 and then offered the EV tax.
Yeah.
So it was almost like I couldn't resist that. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been looking for a Tesla for a while, but when they did that, I was like, oh my God. And I felt sorry for the people that bought Teslas because all of a sudden their value just dropped.
Yeah.
So a lot.
Yeah,
and
that's
so,
a fair point.
but from what I understand and what I've kind of seen is it doesn't offer that much. You're not going to get your full 15 back if you buy it. You're going to get some back, when you go to sell it used, but not the 15.
I figured it would be more than that, because it's because as it goes up, like you bought it at 15 and then it goes to 20. Now full self driving goes to 20.
Yeah. That'd be the way to do it. Now that's probably selling it to a dealership, a private party. Somebody really wants self-driving. Yeah, they may give you more money for that. It's just like anything else.
Yeah. I mean, it's also, if I ever want, not that I would do this, but if eventually you did want a fleet of cars and you did want your own business that does that type of thing, it's just another way of passive income. Again, does seem like a lot of work, because you'd have to hire someone to, like you said, plug in and do all that. And I also feel like Teslas they do have targets on their back, where some people try to key them and some people try to like really damage the Teslas, which is stupid because Teslas have cameras and you're going to get caught. But
yeah, if I'm not in that car, security mode's on. Yeah. Anywhere I'm at, not in the garage, but
100%. But well, I don't know what other things you say. So you have Tesla stock, obviously you have some OMI, you have a bunch of. What other things are you looking at or have you invested in that you're like, this is probably a good deal?
Blue chip stocks was what, because I'm kind of a long-term investor, so I like blue chip stocks, Apple and Tesla, and I actually bought some stock in Rivian. I wish I wouldn't have, but I bought some stock in Rivian. But again, long-term play.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes if they make it. I think we'll see. We'll see. If they got any shot, we're going to find out in the next couple of years or not. And I just mostly stocks is what I do. But now Veve's pretty much taken all of my attention. And one thing that going back to Veve's marketing and stuff is I I could see like certain IPs given away, like we did with Marvel Unlimited.
Mhm.
Could Disney give away NFTs on, certain days? They could, but think about how many NFTs that would be then in the market.
That's a lot. Yeah.
30,000. I don't know how many people go into a Disney park on a typical day. I haven't really looked into that. I know when you're there, it feels like 500,000 people, but it's so if
Same
you
between
get,
all the parks, it's like 40 to 50.
but I really see Disney using I mean, it's the biggest IP we got, and I'm talking about the umbrella of Star Wars, Marvel, and little, and original Disney, Mickey, and all that type of stuff. Uh, I I always think back about the haunted house. When I was a kid, when I first saw the haunted house, it was amazing that those ghosts, you could see through them. And then you went through that last part and you're sitting in that booth and you're like, oh, there's a ghost between us. How do they doing that? And it had something to do with the mirror, but she thought that was very cool. I see Disney just using that type of idea and then, redoing rides, bringing out new rides. That's all, you got to wear AR glasses to do these. And I mean, they already do AR glasses. If you've ever seen at Hollywood Studios, if you've ever seen the Muppets show, that's all 3D.
Oh, that's cool.
That's all 3D. And that's been 3D for a very long time. They've just got these 3D glasses you put on, you watch the show, and then as you're moving, you throw them in a trash bin and they recycle them. They probably clean them up and use it for the next show or whatever the case may be. I can see Disney doing this with these IPs. I mean, you don't have as much construction costs if you can do this. You can just create an entire ride, not using as much stuff as what you would normally do on a ride. I mean, if you go through Space Mountain, if you've ever been through Space Mountain with the lights on, that's just a rickety old roller coaster. You can't see anything.
Yeah.
But there's certain things you can see that Disney wants you to see. But when they turn the lights on, and I've been in it when the lights were turned on, I'm like, oh, this is just a regular old roller coaster, but it didn't feel that way. And so if you can recreate that using NFTs, think about it. You don't ever have to worry about those NFTs breaking down. You don't have to worry about, the color going out of them and so on. I saw somebody on Twitter the other day that took a picture of It's a Small World at the very end. And they're like, look at the paint up there. Look how bad this is. They need to renovate this. AR, you don't have to worry about any of that.
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. The cost of, well, not even just the cost of the labor to fix it, but having to, I guess they could do that at night. They wouldn't have to shut down the ride really. They could just continuously at night do that and renovate that if they wanted, instead of shutting down and then you lose an attraction for the day. But speaking of ideas for marketing and just ideas in general, you had this idea of taking each collectible and looking at it as if it were their own company. And every week, Veve doing essentially an IPO of these new. Tell us your theories about that and how that would be.
My idea is to come up with a NASDAQ for Veve. All right. And what I mean by that, if you take a look at the NASDAQ, it's an index of stocks. It's just a list of stocks that people smarter than me figured out that these represent the market. Now, what are we talking about here for representing the market? Well, it's highly tech, but you also have the finance industry, you have the healthcare industry, you have the transportation industry in there as well. And so what they do is they take that index and they take a percentage. And so, like, as an example, how much is Microsoft's percentage, to that index? But they've got these stocks that they do. And so you can easily, if I want to know how the stock market is doing, I just reach in my phone, pull up the stock app, and I can see what the New York Stock Exchange is doing or NASDAQ is doing or anything. And if they're up, I know it's been a good day. Do I own any of those stocks? Maybe I do, maybe I don't, but it gives us an indication of how the market is doing. So unless you have a large bag of collectibles, you really don't know from day to day how the market is doing. I've got a pretty good judge of it just by taking a look at, my vault value, because, I've got about 450 collectibles, over 100 comics and the rest are collectibles. So I kind of get a sense of that. But, if you got 10 collectibles, you don't know if the market's going up and down based upon your 10 collectibles, because you don't know if your collectibles, we're also obviously talking about new users. You don't know what's really valuable and what's not valuable. When you first come in, you think but you don't know. And if you've never collected comics like I have, I had no idea. I know who Spider-Man is, but I didn't know which first comic he came out on. I know it was back in the 60s, but I knew nothing like that. So maybe my idea is maybe we take certain collectibles that represent the market, and we could look at categories. We could do comics and we could do collectibles. And as an example, if you're going to do an index for Veve, I think probably the first one that everybody agree upon would be Todd. So as Todd price goes, and we would do, I'm just going to throw it out there. Maybe you do a Todd, maybe do a Walt, maybe do some other collectibles. You get the value of what all those collectibles are. And then as those collectibles go up and down every day, you get an idea of how the market is doing within Veve. Now, finding that index and agreeing upon, should a Todd be on there? Should a Walt be on there? Should a whatever be on there? That's what the community needs to decide. Or, David, you or Dan or whatever. But I kind of look at this as a community type of thing. What do we all think should be in that index, like a NASDAQ? And so that we can just take a quick look at the index and see how generally the market is moving today.
Well, I think I have a way of being able to track this. Do you know Omi the Clown or Kelly the Veve Fox?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Both of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So at Rootless Girl on Twitter, this is Kelly the Veve Fox, and she does these weekly market pulses, these weekly market updates, where they're, okay, this is how many active users we have. That's how I know we have about 15,000 active users each week. We'll have, say, 4 or 5 on any given day.
Yep.
But anyway, those two are like teaming up, and they're doing something called Mintalysis. It's going to launch in the summer. It's going to launch of this year, of 2023. And basically what it is if you want to look up up-to-date floor and sales prices or that kind of thing, you can use that and it'll be able to tell you right away. So we could essentially use that as a tool for this particular venture of people wanting to learn certain indexes. I feel like that's going to be pretty fun. Anyway, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and the real thing is which collectibles do we pick if we were going to do it? Which ones represent Veve as a whole, for collectibles and comics more than anything else is what we would need to do. And, how many grails do we have in there? Secret rares. I mean, there's a lot of collectibles on the, in the app. And so that would be the rub, is trying to figure out which collectibles best represent Veve if we put, say, 30 collectibles together and create like a New York Stock Exchange or an index, just to give a general idea. But it sounds like this min analysis might be able to do that as well. It's just finding that index. And not everybody's going to agree. I mean, people can't even, so many things people can't agree upon in this space, in the family. So I know this would be a tough thing, but I mean, it's just an idea. Just an idea.
I like that idea. So we've been going for about an hour. We have, is there any other things that you want to talk about before we end it, before we wind down?
No, but I think I'm good. I think I'm good. I think we covered everything.
We had a good amount. This will be at some point. When do you see? I know this is kind of a long-term thing for you. At least 5 years, you said. But if there comes a point in time where in the next couple of years, suddenly, hey, I have, maybe like $1 million worth of Omi. At what point do you cash out and be like, all right, retired now, don't need to do anything?
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it incrementally. I've got price points where I'm going to sell. I want to get my money back, and then I'm just playing with house money at that point. So I don't know. I mean, I like to give points, but what I'm really, as soon as I get to that 40,000 mark where I get that tier 5, that's when I'm going to start saying, okay, I got to keep this 40,000. I got to stake this to be at level 5 OUP. But once Omi starts rising up, then what you want to do is start selling some of that stuff to get your, like I said, then you're playing with house money on that. So I'm never going to sell all of it, but I will definitely sell some of it to, to get my money back. And also I got plans, I got things I want to see and what I want to do. I want to travel. My first trip out of this country, the next trip is going to be Egypt. So, if I can do more of that because of Veve and the stuff that I got and all my hard work and long hours of watching you, other influencers, and really making my own decisions. And that's, I think, what a lot of people need to realize. You all are just giving us scenarios. We are the ones that need to make the decisions based upon the information that you give. And you also need to find out the quality of that information before you start to buy anything. So
we have I mean, there's a lot of different ways it could go. I think, again, my bear case in 2025 is a couple cents. Like, if most things are delayed and we have like one exchange in the next 2 years, which we should have later this year, minimum, just by accident, a couple cents. But again, that's my bear mark. That's my bear case. Base case obviously a little higher. Bull case obviously much higher. So we'll take a look. And people love your hat. I know I said that with Omi. What about collectibles? Like, I believe the partner statue gets to 100K at some point. When that happens, you're like, hey, this is a good time to sell.
No, I'm going to sell the set. Yeah, I'm going to sell the entire set.
Okay. All right.
Because that's the reason why I really kind of started MCP a little bit early. I probably started looking at MCP in December, because my goal set for being a long-term investor is I want to sell a set. I don't want to sell Walt. I want to sell an entire set, because there's going to come a point where these collectibles you won't be able to find them unless you're going to pay an extraordinary amount of money. Well, if I sell a set and I can price that set, then what I can do is I can give value to somebody to be able to buy the entire set instead of paying every piece individually. I will tell you this, my price point for that entire set is at least $500,000. And I know that's years down the road, but that's okay. I'm willing to wait. And the whole golden moment set, not just Walt, but the whole set.
Yeah. That's a lot. That might take a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I do expect all
that could be 20 years. It's okay.
I would definitely say next decade. I do think that they'll rise quite significantly, because there are a lot that are in accounts that are locked up. You know, David mentioned you have 900,000 to 1 million accounts with at least one collectible in it.
Oh, God.
That are so
it's music to my ears.
Yeah. So I think when it finally comes out, oh, hey, these collectibles, they haven't moved for a year or 2 years, however much that is, we should probably consider those burned, or probably consider those at least locked up for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that, suddenly things become real scarce. Then it gets real. And then you have kind of like something that happened yesterday, where you have the OTC deal. Now, does that suddenly open the door to all of these other whales and institutions? Not necessarily. I feel like there was definitely a reason. It wasn't just Veve selling some of their stuff. Veve also got a bunch of stuff on top of that. They got like 83 Amelias, I think, from those. I think those Rewind Collective one. Why did they need that? I don't know. Why did they want that? I don't know. I mean, I guess they did that deal so they didn't have to purchase directly from the market to make it moon. But I feel like this was a special kind of deal that, maybe now that whales are interested and they can't get it from Veve and they have to buy in the market, things become very scarce very, very quickly. So I'm pretty excited.
I like what you said, that there was a private conversation between one person and David, and then that person posted that on Twitter.
Yeah. I don't know if this was the person, but I had I don't know who that was. I don't care, but I had somebody, I can't say it, but they had messaged me, and they're like, "You're such a little bitch, dude," and then they blocked me. So I'm pretty sure it was that person that had saw my video, and they had messaged me a couple of times throughout the years. I never saw it. And then that's what they meant. So like I'd never interacted with this person, at least not through direct messaging. It was strange. Like, don't post private conversations.
Yeah,
like
exactly. You just can't. There's a reason why you're given that access, and don't abuse that. It's just like the logo. I got access to that Telegram account. I'm not saying anything to David. I'm not saying anything to Dan. I'm not saying anything to anybody. I'm just humbled to be there. And being in that group and stuff. So, if I can help out, I will. If not, I'm just happy to be here. So, but don't post private conversations.
Yeah, agreed. I do. Speaking of that, I do want to talk to you off camera for 1 minute. So after I end the broadcast, just hang on for a sec.
Okay.
And with that, we will bounce. Everybody say bye-bye to Dashi. Bye-bye, Dashi. I love you all. Thank you for being here.
Everybody say goodbye to Uno. Goodbye, Uno. Oh,
Yeah.
right there, right
Yeah.
there.
All
Yeah.
right.
So anyways, Randy, it was a pleasure.